Welcome back to Briggs on Books, the international talk show where we talk to authors from all over the world about their books, their process, how they're marketing their book, how their book's going, things like that. I know many of our viewers are trying to write their first book. Well, we're bringing people on the show who've done it, who've finished doing it, and we'll see how they did it. By the way, if you're looking for your next book to read this season, check this out. By the way, this is the one I'm giving out as Christmas gifts this year. It's called Dusty Roads. And not only do I have the book, but I also have the author here, if I can find her. Where are you? Elaine Rock. There she is. Welcome, Elaine.
Hi, nice to meet you.
First of all, I read nonfiction, mostly, which is your book is. And
Yeah.
I like to read about things I know nothing about. And this is perfect because I knew nothing about this story whatsoever.
Very few people do.
Yeah, tell us about Dusty Roads.
Well, as she describes herself, in the 1950s as a stewardess, she was a little voice out in the wilderness trying to make things change for women when they encountered sexual discrimination by the airlines.
Yeah. And she was, what, TWA?
She was American Airlines.
American Airlines, that's right. And what were the rules back then for women?
Well, they had to be young, single, and attractive.
Yeah.
And that was primarily to attract the traveling businessmen, which was the majority of the people who bought tickets at the time. We're talking 1950 when she started.
Yeah.
And 1953 was when American Airlines introduced a new policy firing stewardesses at age 32. They already had and had been, and many occupations had the mandatory termination upon marriage.
Before we, excuse me, before we go too far, I want to go through some of these great pictures you sent. Here's the pictures of the stewardesses. I don't know what year this is, but
That was 1963, and they were in contract negotiations after having attempted to get through Congress a bill overturning the age policy. But what happened was the men in the first committee started laughing about it and calling it the old broads bill.
Oh, boy.
And that's when Dusty knew she was fighting sexual discrimination nationally as opposed to just management. So they decided to do something radical, and as negotiations stalled, they had a press conference asking the press, can you tell the difference of ages between these 8 stewardesses?
there they are. Can you tell the difference? Which of these stewardesses are over 32? Can you tell? Now, this next slide, I think, is just a picture of Dusty Roads. You can't see it, I know, but our viewers can. How beautiful she was.
She was, and that was her passport pictures, and I like that photo because this is a good example of why she was so attractive in Washington, D.C. as a lobbyist. She became a lobbyist there. Wow. So, congressmen bought her lunch.
I bet. Now, here's a bunch. Are these congressmen? What are we seeing in this distinguished gentleman in this picture?
This was the contract signing when they were unable to get the age rule overturned. But I wanted to show this photo because obviously there are 2 women, and look at how all the men look alike too.
Yeah, they sure do.
Yeah.
Okay, now here is, I guess, out of service.
Now that was in 1993. Dusty had become a mentor to many other stewardesses, and now they were called flight attendants. And she had been flying from Japan to Los Angeles and decided to join the picket line, but on her way out of the airport saw in front of the women's restroom that sign. So she grabbed it and flung it over her shoulders, and of course everybody laughed when she got outside, and so she had a good time helping them picket against for higher wages and health benefits.
Nice. She's just taking a trip. Now, I guess this is Gloria Steinem and Dusty Roads.
Right. There's a story behind that one. After I first met Dusty, I met her at the local Santa Rosa, Sonoma County Family YMCA pool, And she was let's see, where am I here? Anyway, she was she told me about how they were subjected rather to girdle checks, where they'd flick the fingers on their behinds because they were supposed to wear girdles so nothing would jiggle and distract the men on the airplane. And then also they were talking about weight standards that were unrealistic, that would be shocking today. And so I thought, well, I asked her, anybody ever ask you to write an autobiography, or did someone want to write a biography of you? Well, no. And so I went home and researched her, found that she had been on PBS 100 Women Who Make America. And she was written up in the first chapter of Flora Davis's Moving the Mountain, which is a book that came out in the 90s. She wrote the book for her daughters, so they would know more about the women's movement. And so I thought, there's something to this. I went back to her and I said, I'd like to write your biography.
Nice.
And she said, I've just been waiting for someone to ask. So there you go. And then later that year, she was invited to her alma mater, Case Western Reserve University, to be a speaker at the Women's Center anniversary. And Gloria Steinem was to be the keynote speaker. And we attended the fundraiser. We were the first ones in to visit Gloria. Dusty looks at her, and I'm observing this, and says, well, Gloria, after all these years, I haven't had a chance to thank you for everything you did with women, for women. And Gloria turns to Dusty and said, oh no, Dusty, I should be thanking you. You're the one who started it all. I knew I had a story.
You had a story, yes. This is going to be a fascinating read. I think maybe young people don't really know how different it is now.
Yes.
There's still a lot of inequalities, but the idea that they're just realizing they're being sexually discriminated against way back then is amazing. And
a lot of that is coming out now, and I think they're beginning to learn this more, that women couldn't have their own credit cards, bank accounts, they without male co-signers. They couldn't serve on a jury. Women couldn't become commercial airline pilots. So they couldn't have their own passports and their own names if they were married. There's a whole list in my book about what women couldn't do.
Now, tell me about the research for the book. It seems like you had to do an awful lot of research.
I did 7 years of interviews and research. It was difficult because by the time I finished the interviews, it took another year to transcribe them. I have more than enough material that I am going to be introducing through my website.
Nice.
And I had to contact the House, Senate, FAA historians, and the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission. But it was the pandemic, and they were all closed.
Oh boy, what a time to be researching.
That was not easy, but they did get back to me. And I also had the historians help me from American Airlines. They want the story to come out about Dusty because she's so revered, really.
Let me ask you, kind of on a personal note, this will mean something to me and to you, but a lot of our viewers might not know what we're talking about. You were on the Art Linkletter show.
Yes, I was, when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
They picked 4 of us from our elementary school, which is what they did around Los Angeles, and so this is kind of funny. By the time he got to, they do a prep before the interviews, but they didn't ask me any particular questions. So when Art Linkletter came to me and said, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, oh, a TV star like you. And he said, took the mic, gave it to me, handed it to me, and said, go ahead, be one. And so I just said, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it just brought the whole audience down. And he said, ladies and gentlemen, this was not rehearsed.
Yeah, I love that segment. I don't know if I watch it every day or once a week. I don't remember now, but we love to watch Art Linkletter. So,
Yeah, I did too.
tell me, I like to ask about processes, and we've talked about your process, your research and stuff. But what happened when you finished writing the book? You had to figure out how to get it out there.
Yeah, I started out thinking traditional publishing and then hybrid publishing. I had a hybrid publisher, but I had some health scares, and so I decided I have to take a hiatus. I broke the contract. I had to take care of me.
Yeah.
And then when I found out that I was going to be okay, I decided, all right, I'm going to self-publish then. And so I started taking a lot of classes and found people to help me,
Yeah.
started my own business, and am raring to go.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really looks like it came together. Just the cover and everything is so striking, and the backstory is so exciting, and the way you laid it out, your website, your Amazon presence, everything is really well. I think you could be a good model for others who are trying to figure out how to get through it. So,
It can happen. It can take time. And of course, a biography takes a lot longer than other creative nonfiction or nonfiction stories. So.
What formats? Is it on the Kindle?
It's on the Kindle. It's on Kindle. It's on paperback, and it will be on audio. I just started recording it.
Is it going to be your voice?
It is my voice.
Yeah, I love it when the author uses their own voice on the audiobooks. It's my favorite. It's so hard to read the small print on the page anymore, so I'm really getting into audiobooks. So I appreciate that.
I think it's a real trend right now, and people like that. I've gotten several people that said, well, I'm waiting for the audiobook. Well, okay, you'll have to wait till January.
Keep waiting. Who should read this book?
Oh, I think women who are concerned about their jobs and not knowing how to respond to sexual discrimination. I think any young woman who wonders how long is it going to take for change? Are we going backwards in time? And the one message that they can get is that it takes perseverance, tenacity, and time to make change. And that's what Dusty's message is all about. But we have so many women who have made change that they can stand on their shoulders and learn how to do it and just continue to keep trying because, I think, and let's not forget the men. The men allies have to be with the women on any change in the future. We have to be arm in arm marching forward together because that's the best way to get an equal society.
I'm going to gift this book to some people that I know at Christmas time. So if you're watching, take the clue. Don't go and click once when you order, or 5 of them or 10 of them, for goodness sakes. You'll find someone to give them to. And I love this kind of, I like a biography. It's my favorite thing to read, and I can't wait to dig into this one, Elaine. So
I think you'll enjoy it, Mike.
We're way past time, but I can't stop talking to you because you're fascinating. What would we find at your website, ElaineRock.com?
You will find more about me, about my background. You'll find the order here links for the book. I think that's the best way to go. It goes directly to Amazon if you want to buy there. Nice. And I'll be having other bookstores located there as well to order from. You'll find Dusty's story as well. I have a couple of videos of Dusty from the 100 Women Who Make America and Gloria Steinem when we attended the Makers Conference and Dusty became ill and Gloria had a pinch hit for her.
Very good. Elaine, I'd love to have you back on the show anytime. You working on another book?
I have a book in mind. I've met so many women who were, let me put it this way, this would be the title, first in their field, and they were in men's jobs when women were starting to be able to do that, to have jobs in like a UPS freight truck driver, postal service person, and biologists, and one of the first firewomen in San Francisco.
Nice.
So I want to write a vignette of stories for that called First in Their Field.
Well, I'm inspired by you, Elaine, and you're very enthusiastic and full of energy, and you wear me out just talking to you because you're so Fun. And by the way, I do want to say this is an important history. I'm glad you wrote the book and put down the history because maybe
it gives everybody a totally different perspective on women's the women's movement, because most people think Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan were the ones who started it all. But in reality, that's not true. A whole lot of people were starting it before, but Dusty was the loudest voice in the room.
Well, Elaine, I hope you'll come back on the show again and again. And for our viewers, don't go anywhere because we'll be back with another author right after this.
I'd love to. Thank you.